Thought I would take a few minutes and review some of the reading questions assigned for part one of the Tortilla Curtain. The questions I've indicated in bold are the ones that I'll look at because I think they're probably the most valuable at this point. So just want to make sure we're all on the same page, so to speak, in our understanding of the novel. It doesn't mean that you have to agree with what I offer here, but if you're somewhat close, I think we can assume that you're reading well and catching on to the things you need to understand about the book. So the first question has to do with the initial accident between Delaney and Candido. One thing you have to remember about this book is that we see the thoughts of the characters in an unfiltered way. The book is presented in the third person and it's omniscient, so that means that we are bouncing around to the different characters' thoughts as they occur to them. I am not excusing Delaney's thoughts in any way, but we do have to maybe give him the benefit of the doubt and assume that he is in some sort of shock, perhaps. He has just run over a human being. But the fact that he thinks about his insurance rates and the damage to his car certainly do not make him a likable character from the beginning. So I think that's troubling, certainly. He does eventually offer Candido medical treatment once he finds him. Of course, Candido denies that treatment because of his legal status. The equation that Candido or that Delaney has calculated is essentially that if Candido goes to the doctor, he gets deported. The third question, what angers Delaney about Candido living in the canyon and why? If you notice in the first chapter, one of the things that sets him off about Candido isn't that he's here illegally or anything like that, but that he's living down in the canyon, camping. And Delaney assumes that Candido is in part responsible for sort of the environmental damage down in the canyon. He is an environmentalist at heart, and most of the problems he has with Candido and people like him are seen through this lens, the damage, quote unquote, that they're causing the environment. Number 5, how does Kyra react to the news that Delaney has hit a man with his car? Well, I think you know, if you read that scene, that she's angry about it. It's strange. She's not concerned for the man that he hit, but for the possible outcome. The fact that the man could press charges, the fact that there could be a lawyer involved, the fact that they could lose money on the whole issue or the whole accident is what troubles her. What does Delaney pull from his jacket? This is one of the strange scenes in the first part of the novel, of course, is he whips out the severed foot of his beloved dog that's been chewed off by a coyote. And he's trying to make the point to his fellow Arroyo Blanquians that they need to stop looking at these animals, coyotes, wild animals, as something quaint, something to be fed table scraps, because eventually that animal that you're feeding is going to leap the boundary, leap the fence, and come after your animals. Number 8, Delaney is against the gate at Arroyo Blanco because he finds it discriminatory and elitist. He also wants to live in an unencumbered way. That's why he was attracted to Arroyo Blanco. Very few borders between him and nature. In the second through fourth chapters, the questions that I've indicated here, the first one is, why does America agree to come to the United States with Candido? You have to imagine this is a pretty strange situation. She is the sister of Candido's first wife. She is about half the age of Candido. So I think what he's done is he's fed into her conception of the American dream, telling her that everything that she ever wanted is just on the other side of the border. He even says, what was he going to do? Or his thoughts take us back to this question, what was he going to do? tell her the truth and still get her here with him. So whether he's intentionally lying or just being optimistic is hard to say. In his mind, almost anything is possible. He just does not see things in a negative light. So he may well believe that he can provide for her the way he is told her, which is with a nice little house and all the sort of appliances that are common to Americans living in the 20th century at that time. Why is America so upset when she finds out the American Mary is working at the labor exchange? Well, I think it's simple. It's if Mary is working there, then of course that means that the situation economically isn't very good, because even an American citizen is struggling to make ends meet. Who tears up Candido and America's campsite and why? Well, we know this is Jack Jr. and his friend. And the why is almost impossible to know, other than it's due to his unmitigated hate for people unlike him. And he's likely learned this sort of bigotry from his father, as we'll see in later chapters. I really do not believe that people are born bigoted. I don't think that's true. I think we learn this stuff along the way. And the fact that Jack Jr. is raised by Jack Jardine, that he lives in Arroyo Blanco with other people like Jack Jardine, is likely what's caused him to be such an awful human being. Chapters 5 through 8. Question 2. What is ironic about Delaney's column in which he praises the coyotes that surround his home? Well, if we sort of take the coyote to represent other forms of nature and people who are like Candido, say, who are just trying to survive, it's interesting because Delaney sees the coyote as something to be admired, as clever, as just trying to survive, and yet he can't see those very qualities in people like Candido in America. In the grocery store scene, how does Delaney's viewpoint differ from Jack Jardine's? Well, in that scene, we see that Delaney is very supportive of the idea of immigration. Even immigration that is not legal. He seems to stand up for those people, for people's rights to come to this country, saying that that immigrants are the lifeblood of the country. Jack Jardine, of course, the racist, says that this isn't the case at all, that only certain people should be allowed to come and only if they come legally. What's strange about this scene, though, is even though Delaney is protective of people's rights to come regardless of their legal status, he's still quite put off by seeing Candido again. And I think it's because of the fact that it brings up all the feelings he had with the accident, perhaps the guilt he felt, maybe even still feels. But at the same time, he just wants him to go away. He wants to disappear, this person. He doesn't want to have to deal with the fact that Candido is still a part of his life and will continue to be a part of his life, as we'll see, which is one of the themes of the novel. Finally, nearly every character will cross paths with the villain of part 1, Jose Navidad. But how does this, the fact that he's Mexican, affect your understanding of the novel? So I think to this point, the sort of most reprehensible characters in the book have been white people, generally. If we look at Jack Jardine Jr., if we look at the people living in his community, I think we can tell that it's the bigots seem to be the white people in the book. I think it would be sort of unbelievable in a sense if the only bad people in the book were Caucasian, however. It seems to say that evil can come in any form,